Ouya is a promising platform. With sleek, inexpensive hardware and a custom Android-based OS, it gives indie developers a gateway to the living room and players an ever-expanding library of free-to-try games. But in its attempt to fill the void between traditional consoles and mobile devices, the Ouya struggles to find value and utility of its own. Designed by Fuse Project, the studio that created the Jambox, the Ouya is sleek and modern with aluminum casing and a smooth tapering base. It's about as big as a Rubik's Cube, making it simple to integrate into any entertainment center. Though it features USB ports and an Ethernet jack, all users will need to get started is the included power adapter, HDMI cable, and controller. Aside from encountering a few failed firmware updates, the initial setup was otherwise effortless. Just pair the included controller over Bluetooth, connect to a Wi-Fi network, create an Ouya account, and you're good to go. The UI is flat and simple, broken down into 4 sections: Play, Discover, Make, and Manage. Play is a shortcut to your library of apps and games. Discover takes you to the store, and Manage houses the settings and system info. Game titles are presented as thumbnails and arranged in rows, making for a visually arresting, albeit unorganized, experience. Without any means of sorting or categorizing, your collection quickly becomes overwhelming, especially since all of the games on the platform are free to try. Under the hood, the Ouya sports 8 GB of storage, 1 GB of RAM, and runs on a Tegra 3 processor, a generation behind NVIDIA's latest chip, the Tegra 4. Though more than capable for many apps and games, performance is inconsistent to say the least. Less demanding titles run with ease, but detailed 3D titles like Shadowgun struggle to maintain smooth frame rates during firefights and other action segments. Even the primary UI chokes at times, with noticeable hiccups when browsing your library too quickly. Launching and loading games is otherwise fairly fast. Every game or app on Ouya has been updated or developed for use with its controller, whereas other Android gaming devices tack it on. Ouya's take on a traditional gamepad is familiar, but distinctly its own. If I were to describe the design in 2 words, it'd be flat and dense. The handles are thick and conform well enough to your hand, but the base is unusually flat, with a fairly sharp, straight edge at the top, making it uncomfortable to reach the triggers and shoulder buttons. Otherwise, the thumbsticks, D-pad, and action buttons all feel great and springy. The Ouya's controller is like the DualShock 4, in that it comes with an integrated touch surface, though there's not much of a use for it currently in most apps and games. While a centered Ouya button will take you back to the main UI, there's no dedicated button for contextual menus. As a result, developers have assigned the role to one of the action buttons, but the configuration varies from title to title. The latency and accuracy of the controller is also erratic. Many games reflect commands without any noticeable lag, while others are sluggish and imprecise. More often than not, the thumbsticks have a perceivable dead zone. However, these aren't unsolvable problems. By working with developers and releasing updated software, Ouya can better standardize the control scheme and minimize some of these performance issues. But the Ouya's biggest challenge isn't latency or processor performance, it's content. Although the Ouya boasts over 276 apps and games, a vast majority of them are optimized versions of older titles released on other platforms. While there are standouts and recognizable names like Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Chronoblade, Final Fantasy III, and Canabalt, the only benefit to playing them on the Ouya is the console-style TV experience. There are also a few NES, PS1, and N64 emulators available for the system, but the capacity to play unstable, decades-old games is hardly what I'd call a killer app. Even key media apps like Netflix and Hulu are missing, with only Flickster or Twitch TV as alternatives. The caliber of games is also lacking. Many are good for 20 minutes of novelty, but I found myself getting bored quickly and never revisiting them. And if you have compelling experiences nearby on your PS3, your Xbox 360, or PC, it's hard to justify spending a ton of time with the Ouya. There's no questioning the potential for the platform, but there are some obvious limitations and a critical lack of alluring content for early adopters. But at $99, it's hard to get too down on the Ouya, even with its glaring issues. For those intrigued by the concept, it's not an unreasonable sum to pay, flaws and all. For all things Ouya, head over to IGN.com.